How do we use insulin for bodybuilding purposes? What types of insulin should we use? And how do we use it safely? Insulin is a peptide hormone that's produced by the beta cells in the pancreas, and exogenous insulin is used by individuals who suffer from type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes, and we also see it used for performance-enhancing purposes. And that's the question. How do we use insulin for bodybuilding purposes? What types of insulin should we use? And how do we use it safely? Firstly, I'm going to go over the types of insulin we typically see used in the bodybuilding community and go over each one of those. We have our long-acting insulin like Lantus that is supposed to last for 24 hours, but what we see in many cases is Lantus wearing off somewhere around the 18 to 20 hour mark. And honestly, I don't prefer a long-acting insulin for bodybuilding purposes. And the reason why is that it is a very slow release of the amount that you inject. So let's say you inject a 20 IU of long-acting insulin in the morning. What happens is you get the background insulin, which means it provides a slow, steady release of the insulin over the next 20 hours, even though it's supposed to last 24 hours. And yes, I understand there are long-acting insulin brands that last up to 48 hours, but regardless, it's still a slow and steady release over that period of time, and it will not spike when your blood sugar levels spike, for instance, with high carbohydrate meals. This is exactly why I prefer a rapid acting insulin like Humalog or Novolog. It begins working somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes after injection and lasts somewhere between 3 to 5 hours, making it almost perfect to use 2 to 3 times per day, a few days per week. The issue with rapid-acting insulin as well as long-acting insulin is that you need a prescription, and the other type of insulin is fast-acting insulin. I think you should work with a very knowledgeable and experienced coach, and you should know basic mathematics. Now, the fast-acting insulin that you can get over the counter, like Humulin R or Novolin R, is going to be slightly different than rapid-acting insulin like Humalog or Novolog. It's going to take about 30 to 60 minutes to start working, depending on the person, and it's going to last anywhere between 6 sometimes up to 10 hours, which in my opinion makes it way more dangerous to use because of how long it stays in your system. Nevertheless, I will get to dosing instructions more towards the end of this video. So what's the main reason we're using insulin for bodybuilding purposes? One, it's going to prevent the burnout of our beta cells, which could happen as a result of a high carbohydrate diet and pushing the food very high, or extended use of long-acting insulin. It can happen then as well. Exogenous insulin is mainly used to help partition nutrients, specifically the carbohydrates, which become glucose, and push those into muscle cells, which promotes glycogen storage and muscle protein synthesis. Insulin should only be used in conjunction with testosterone or even with HCG, and also preferably with growth hormone, as these work synergistically to promote muscle growth. Insulin should only be used 1 to 4 days per week to avoid insulin resistance. And also, we're not eating more carbs to match our desired insulin dose. We're adding the insulin to match the carbs we already have in place in our diet while keeping the fats at 0 or very low on these days, especially around injections. And before I give dosing instructions, this is what I'll advise. You should purchase a blood glucose monitor called a glucometer, glucose tablets, and some kind of sugary fruit drink. And you can purchase a glucometer on my Amazon storefront via Linktree in my bio, or you can get it at Walmart. Now, I don't even want to give dosing instructions for the long-acting insulin like Lantus, but if you were going to use it, here it goes. You should consider the amount of carbohydrates that you're going to eat within the entire day of being awake. For example, if you're going to eat 220 grams of carbs, you'd want to start with 1 IU per 20 grams of carbs. Therefore, you would inject 11 IU of Lantus. Keep in mind, this would be a starting point. Then as you familiarize yourself with this type of insulin and how your body responds, you can try 1 IU per 15 grams of carbs. So again, if your daily total carbohydrate intake is going to be 220 grams, you could inject 15 IU of long-acting insulin like Lantus. Please remember that this is specifically for Lantus or another 24-hour long-acting insulin, not the ones that last up to 48 hours. Also, you will only inject one time within that 24-hour period, no more. Now, moving on to rapid-acting insulin like Humalog or Novolog. We will start the same way with 1 IU per 20 grams of carbs, but we are injecting this amount after you eat a meal, and we're matching the insulin to the total amount of carbs you had within that meal. For example, first meal of the day, we're having 60 grams of carbs with that meal. Starting out, we're going to inject 3 IU after the meal. Again, we're going to see how our body responds to this, and after we become familiar and more confident, we can adjust the dose to 1 IU per 18 grams of carbs. Then after filling that dose out, we can go to 1 IU per 15 grams of carbs. And I've heard of professional bodybuilders and very large individuals going to 1 IU per 10 grams of carbs. But again, please work with a competent and very knowledgeable coach. The next injection of insulin should be at least 4 hours after the first one, speaking on the rapid acting insulin, of course. And for example, first injection would be with meal 1, and the next injection would be about meal 3, which would be almost 4 hours later. If for some reason you start to feel shaky or lightheaded or just plain weird, take a few glucose tablets or drink a serving of fruit juice that equals about 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrates and sit down for 15 minutes. If you still feel this way, repeat that process as far as the intake of carbs and wait 15 more minutes. And once you become more comfortable and more confident using rapid acting insulin with meals spaced out at least 3 to 4 hours apart. Oh, and please do not inject with the last meal of the day before you go to bed. That is surely a way to go to sleep and become unalived. Now, keep the insulin within operating hours of being awake, please. Going back to what I was saying, once you become very comfortable and very confident with how insulin affects your body specifically, you can also inject 1 IU of insulin to account for carbs you'll have between the meals. Here's an example of what I mean. Please pay attention. We are comfortably using 1 IU per 15 grams of carbs right after that meal, and we've been doing this for a while. Let's say we want to inject after our pre-workout meal, consisting of 80 grams of carbs, but wait, we're also going to be sipping on a carb powder intra-workout that consists of 50 more grams of carbs. That is a total of 130 grams of carbs. So you're going to take that number, 130, and divide it by 15, giving you 9 IU to inject after your pre-workout meal. Now, we're going to be moving on to fast-acting insulin. We're going to start off the same way with the 1 IU per 20 grams of carbs, and we're going to inject that about 15 to 30 minutes before the meal. This type of insulin hangs around about twice as long as rapid-acting insulin, and you can feel the effects of it somewhere between 6 to 8 hours after you inject. So I would keep my dose the same, which is 1 IU per 20 grams of carbs if you plan to inject, say, twice per day, and I would account for 6 hours between injections. Regardless of the longer duration, Humulin or Novolin R hangs around. Like I said before, multiple times, please work with a very knowledgeable and competent coach, and also do your own research on this topic.